On September 14, 1995, 15-year-old Naomi Louis Smith was relaxing at home with her parents, probably thinking about her upcoming GCSE exams. She had no way of knowing that a simple request from her mother would change everything forever. At 9:30 p.m., Catherine Smith approached her youngest child, Naomi, with a letter in hand, asking her to deliver it at the mailbox down the road. It was such an ordinary request, the kind parents make every day without a second thought. Naomi, ever the dutiful daughter, smiled and took the letter. She walked out the front door, expecting to return within minutes. Her parents watched from the window as their daughter disappeared into the evening darkness, heading toward what should have been a routine 5-minute walk. But they would never see her alive again. Born on March 4, 1980, she was the youngest of 4 children and the only daughter in the Smith family. While her 3 older brothers brought typical boyish energy to their Coventry-born household, Naomi was different, quieter, gentler, with an old soul that seemed wise beyond her 15 years. The family had moved to Nuneaton when Naomi was just a toddler, making it the only home she truly remembered. Both her parents, Brian and Catherine, worked as taxi drivers, providing a modest but loving home for their children. Naomi was the kind of teenager who still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. She was deeply caring, almost maternal in her interactions with younger children and animals. Her dream wasn't fame or fortune. She simply wanted to spend her life helping others, either as a veterinarian or working with children. Naomi excelled academically, worked hard at gymnastics, and had genuine talent as a musician. She played in her church band with friends, their youthful energy bringing joy to Sunday services. The mid-1990s were the golden age of boy bands, and like countless teenage girls, Naomi's room was covered with posters of Take That, Westlife, NSYNC, and the Backstreet Boys. She loved Michael Jackson too, often humming his songs while doing homework. Her family was deeply religious, finding comfort and community in their local church. Faith wasn't just Sunday morning for the Smiths. It was woven throughout their daily lives, providing moral guidance and a sense of belonging that made their working-class existence rich with meaning. But here comes the night everything changed. Thursday evening seemed perfectly normal. Naomi had spent the day with her best friend Emma. Emma's mother had driven both girls home, parking outside the Smith house and watching Naomi safely reach her front door. The evening passed quietly. Dinner, homework, family time, the comfortable rhythm of ordinary life. When Catherine asked Naomi to post the letter, it was the kind of small favor that happens in families everywhere. The letterbox was only 2 streets away, a simple walk down familiar roads in a neighborhood where Naomi had played as a child, where she knew every corner and shortcut. Her parents expected her back in 5 minutes, but 10 minutes passed, then 15, then 30. But as the clock ticked toward 11 p.m. and darkness deepened outside their windows, concern transformed into genuine fear. This wasn't like Naomi. She was responsible, punctual, and always let them know if she'd be delayed. Brian Smith couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed his car keys and drove into the night, searching for his daughter. The estate felt different at night, eerily quiet, with streetlights casting long shadows between houses. Brian drove slowly, scanning every corner, every gathering spot where teenagers might congregate. But the streets were empty. Even the most rebellious kids were inside by now. His first stop was the letterbox where Naomi should have been. No sign she'd ever been there. Next, he drove to Emma's house, thinking the girls had made plans he didn't know about. But when Emma answered the door, Brian's heart sank. She hadn't seen Naomi since earlier that day, and was immediately alarmed to learn her best friend was missing. Without hesitation, Emma jumped into Brian's car, in search of her best friend. Together, they continued searching the quiet streets. Their next destination was Ansley Common, a local park where the estate's children often played. It was just an ordinary recreational area. Swings, slides, a large grassy field where kids played football and other games. During the day, it was filled with laughter and activity. At night, it should have been empty. Brian parked in the small car park adjacent to the playground. In the dim light, something caught his eye near the slide, something that didn't belong. As he walked closer, his world began to collapse. Lying beneath the slide was his daughter. Naomi's body was covered in blood, a deep gash across her throat, making it immediately clear that she was beyond help. The vibrant, caring teenager who had walked out of their house just hours earlier was gone. Brian's anguished cries pierced the night air as Emma watched in horror from the car. Emergency services were called, but everyone knew it was too late. Naomi Louis Smith was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation began immediately. Police cordoned off the park, transforming a place of childhood joy into a crime scene. The entire community was shaken. If this could happen to someone like Naomi, in a place as familiar as Annesley Common, then no one was safe. The autopsy revealed the full horror of what had happened to this innocent young girl. The cause of death was the deep slash wound across her throat, but that wasn't all. Naomi had been essayed, and her attacker had mutilated her pelvic areas with what appeared to be the same weapon used to kill her. Perhaps most importantly for the investigation, there was a bite mark on Naomi's left breast, a crucial piece of evidence that would eventually help identify her killer. News of Naomi's brutal murder spread quickly through Nuneaton. Parents held their children closer, reconsidering every permission to play outside or walk to the shops. The randomness and savagery of the attack created an atmosphere of fear and suspicion. Who could do something like this to a child? Was it someone local, someone they all knew and trusted, or was it a stranger who might strike again?
Certainly may cause someone to leave the area or their normal haunts. It is now a question of when and not if we catch this attacker.
Police understood the urgency. With such a sadistic killer on the loose, there was a real possibility this could be the beginning of a series of attacks. They assigned 30 officers to search the area around Annesley Common, looking for any evidence that might lead them to Naomi's murderer. Unfortunately, heavy rain in the days following the murder washed away potential forensic evidence. No discarded weapon was found, no helpful fingerprints or blood trails. The killer had been careful, or perhaps just lucky. Without physical evidence from the crime scene, police had to rely on traditional investigative methods. They questioned over 50 people in the first few days: family members, friends, neighbors, anyone who might have seen or heard something useful. Through these interviews, they were able to piece together Naomi's final day: the church band activities with Emma, the safe arrival home, the quiet evening with her parents, and finally that fatal walk to the letterbox. Crucially, they confirmed that Naomi had actually made it to her destination. Opening the letterbox, police found the letter her mother had asked her to post. This meant she had been attacked on her way home, probably in the alleyway that led from the post office toward Annesley Common. A witness who lived opposite the letterbox had seen Naomi that night, watching as the teenager posted the letter and then walked down the alleyway. It was the last confirmed sighting of Naomi alive. Public appeals for information led to a promising lead. Someone reported seeing a group of suspicious teenage boys hanging around the area. Police were so confident in this lead that they offered a £10,000 reward for information and planned coordinated raids to arrest all 5 suspects simultaneously. The operation was meticulously planned. Multiple police officers would arrest the 5 teenage boys at the same time, preventing them from communicating or coordinating their stories. Each would be taken to a different police station and questioned intensively. For 72 hours, the maximum time police could hold suspects without charging them, the boys were interrogated. But as the hours passed, it became clear that despite their suspicious behavior, these teenagers had nothing to do with Naomi's murder. They had no evidence connecting any of the 5 to the crime, no inconsistencies in their stories, no incriminating statements, nothing that would justify charges. Reluctantly, police released all 5 boys. It was a devastating setback for the investigation and for Naomi's family, who had briefly hoped their daughter's killer had been caught. Just as morale was reaching its lowest point, forensic results from Naomi's autopsy provided the breakthrough investigators desperately needed. Testing of the bite mark on her breast had revealed a saliva DNA profile belonging to her attacker. While DNA profiling in 1995 wasn't as precise as modern techniques, it was still incredibly valuable. If police could identify potential suspects, they could test their DNA against the profile and likely find their killer. Police began compiling a list of potential suspects: men with histories of violence against women, registered sex offenders, anyone who might be capable of such a brutal attack. The list grew to include hundreds of names, prioritized by criminal history and proximity to the crime. They were methodical, testing DNA samples in batches, and remarkably, they didn't have to wait long for results. One of the first batches of DNA tests revealed a match that would change everything. The saliva on Naomi's body belonged to 19-year-old Edwin Hopkins, a young man who lived on the same estate as the Smith family. On the surface, Edwin seemed unremarkable. He lived with his parents, worked as a decorator, and appeared to be just another working-class teenager. But as police dug deeper into his background, a disturbing picture emerged. Edwin Hopkins had an obsession with knives that went far beyond casual interest. He collected them compulsively and carried them everywhere, even to school. This fascination had begun in childhood, when his father took him hunting, teaching him to kill and skin rabbits as a father-son bonding activity. More alarmingly, Edwin had been accused of a very similar attack in the past, and in the exact same location where Naomi's body was found. The earlier incident had occurred at Annesley Common Park, where a woman was walking alone one evening when Edwin approached her. Initially, he seemed friendly and non-threatening, even offering her a cigarette. They chatted casually as they smoked, but when the woman turned to leave, Edwin began following her. Suddenly, he attacked from behind, pinning her to the ground and attempting to rape her. During the assault, he bit her breast, exactly as he would later do to Naomi Smith. Fortunately, this woman managed to fight back, kneeing Edwin in the groin and escaping to safety. She reported the attack to police immediately. Shockingly, despite having a clear suspect and a detailed victim statement, no action had been taken. Edwin Hopkins was never arrested or charged. If police had properly investigated this earlier attack, Naomi Smith might still be alive. The parallels were undeniable: the same location, the same method of attack, the same distinctive bite mark. Edwin Hopkins had essentially provided a preview of what he would later do to an innocent 15-year-old girl. When police first questioned Edwin about Naomi's murder, he had a ready explanation for his whereabouts that evening. He claimed he had been home playing Trivial Pursuit with his sister when he offered to go to the shop around 9:30 p.m. to buy snacks and beer. According to Edwin, he was gone for only 15 minutes, returning home by 9:45 p.m. to continue their game. His sister had initially corroborated this story when police questioned her, but as DNA evidence mounted against her brother, Edwin's sister could no longer live with the lie she had told to protect him. The truth was far more damning than the alibi suggested.
This is late at night, and she had an alternative route home, was just to go to the front of those same houses, and walk along a well-lit path of the road she lives in.
Edwin hadn't been gone for 15 minutes. He had been absent for nearly an hour, and when he returned home, he was wearing completely different clothes. When his sister questioned the outfit change, Edwin claimed he had spilled milk on himself while at the shop and changed into spare clothes he happened to have in his bag. At the time, she found the explanation odd, but didn't think much of it. Only later, as she learned more about the murder investigation, did she realize the horrible implications of her brother's behavior. The timing aligned perfectly with Naomi's attack, and the clothing change suggested he was trying to hide evidence. DNA evidence had identified Edwin Hopkins as Naomi's killer, but police wanted one more piece of proof before making their arrest. They obtained Edwin's dental records and compared them to the bite mark on Naomi's breast. The match was perfect and distinctly identifiable. Edwin had lost one of his front adult teeth as a child, and his remaining teeth had shifted in an unusual pattern as they filled the gap. His dental pattern was essentially unique, making the bite mark identification conclusive. With DNA evidence, a history of similar attacks, a fabricated alibi, and dental evidence all pointing to the same conclusion, police finally had enough to arrest Edwin Hopkins for the murder of Naomi Smith. Edwin Hopkins was 19 years old when he was arrested and charged with rape and murder. Throughout his police interviews, he maintained complete silence, responding to every question with no comments. He showed no emotion, no remorse, no acknowledgement of the devastating crime he had committed. Even when confronted with overwhelming evidence, he offered no explanation for what had happened to Naomi. This cold, calculating demeanor would continue throughout his trial. Despite the mountain of evidence against him, Edwin Hopkins pleaded not guilty when his case came to court. The trial proceedings revealed the full extent of evidence against Edwin Hopkins. Prosecutors presented the DNA match, the dental evidence, his history of similar attacks, and the lies told to cover his movements on the night of the murder. But Edwin maintained his innocence throughout, sticking to his original story about a quick trip to the shop. He claimed he had walked past the letterbox on his way to buy snacks and seen no one. This steadfast denial meant that many details about Naomi's final moments would remain unknown. Only two people knew exactly what happened that night: Naomi Smith and Edwin Hopkins. Naomi could no longer tell her story, and Edwin refused to speak. In January 1997, more than a year after Naomi's murder, Edwin Hopkins was found guilty of rape and murder. The evidence had been overwhelming, despite his continued protests of innocence. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 20 years. For Naomi's family, the conviction brought some measure of justice, but it could never restore what they had lost. Their youngest child, their only daughter, the caring girl who dreamed of helping others, was gone forever.